Today, we're going to share 4 tips for what you can do if you cannot find a home in your budget. I know we've talked to a lot of buyers over the past 365 days in 2023.
Too many almost.
Yes, a lot of buyers who are in this boat where they've either stopped looking or they haven't started looking or they're just getting discouraged in their home search because it's very hard to buy a house right now for many first-time buyers.
For instance, though, it's such a unique question, though, because I feel like everybody has this one question. I get family members asking me, what is a easy way to buy a home right now on a budget, or just how can I, Spencer? I feel like I'm stretched too thin. I don't have enough funds. I don't have enough income or a down payment specifically. Yeah. So there's a lot in today's real estate market that I think we still provide opportunities for you buyers out there still needing a home, because that's the case. Everybody needs a home. And
another thing to add onto this that makes it even crazier for buyers, with everything going on, buyers trying to just buy their first house when they're on a budget. The home cost of an average, so for just the average house, is $124,000 more than it was in 2020. So basically just the average, house that you would be buying in our country, that's how much more you're paying. And that's not that many years ago.
No, 2020 literally feels like a blink away.
Yeah.
It was... But 4 years later, that's the crazy part. I mean,
I know.
We've been living in these weird moments, I would say. America is weird economically, and there's no real right answers right now. And we can always revert back to what's best for you.
Yeah.
What's best for you as the client, the buyer? How can we accommodate your needs? Okay, Spencer or Mariah, go help me find a property that fits this budget, this bill. This is what I need. This is my have-tos. Go make it happen. Yeah. And that's kind of what clients have been putting on us. Whether you are a seller or a buyer, it's been very weird, though, I would say, because of the budget and the incomes. And the people don't know how to exactly make it happen for themselves. Yeah. That's where maybe we do come in and put our team in place for you to find the right property.
Yeah. So if you're in that boat, then keep on listening. Let's get into these 4 tips. The first thing that you can do if you are in that position where you want to buy a house, but you just can't find something in your budget, is start by really defining financial boundaries. You need to really sit down and take a good look at your finances. This is huge. I talk to so many home buyers that they want to buy, they want to start looking, and they really haven't even spoken with a lender yet. We need to know 100% what your price range is. This is going to give you all the clarity to know how much you need to save down for, each price point you might be looking in, how much to expect for a monthly payment and all of that. You really got to have that clarity first and foremost.
Yeah, and budgeting's big. And people say, well, Spence, I can budget all I want, but I'm still not going to come up with my $10,000 in seller's closings or my $10,000 down payment that I'm needing for this house to fit my mortgage limit. Well, let's think about this. What's your car payment currently? Is there a sacrifice in your life to where maybe you can resell your car, maybe break even on it, or even get more money? The car industry is still somewhat decent. It hasn't completely plummeted. Is there a payment that we can get you out of so your pre-approval can then go up? I mean, the average car payment is like $600 to $750, and that's not even including your car insurance. Yeah. So there's things. I mean, I got a dirt bike and a quad. What am I going to do when I want to buy a house and I don't have the correct funds? Well, to purchase our first house, guess what I did? I sold my dirt bike, my beautiful dirt bike, and my Jeep. Yeah. I had a beautiful black Jeep Wrangler. I lifted it. It was beautiful. I'm an 18, 19-year-old kid, and I made it happen.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I'm not really seeing much out of people right now. Now, things, they take time to sell as well.
It's true.
So you got to realize where the economy is at, and it's all reflective on what the buyers, but also the sellers are willing to accept in a market right now. We are still in a seller's market, I would say. Sellers are holding the reins. Mariah's dealing with that in negotiations, but it's our jobs to put you in the right place, buyers.
So the next thing that you can do if you're in that position is, you might not want to, but you could save for a little longer if needed. But if you're going to be doing that, my biggest piece of advice would be put a plan in place. Don't just say you're going to be saving for a little bit longer for a house. Like, actually have a actionable, written out plan for how you're going to do that.
Because that's the key. How are you going to save?
Otherwise, it probably won't happen because things just come up.
I ask Mariah to save all the time. I'm like, hey, Mariah, can we please save this? Well, guess what just happened? I see a receipt on Amazon. She ain't saving. She just made another Amazon purchase.
Today?
Today. We have these conversations, Mariah and I, both as a married couple.
Yeah.
And if you're not in a great position to, even pay your current rent or your grocery bill or your gas for your car, these are real things. You need to DTR, determine the relationship with your spouse or significant other or your girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever it is. Grandma, maybe you guys are both sharing a house. I don't know. And you need to make it happen and be on the same page. DTR. I think that's a big one, though, that Mariah and I do that we haven't really voiced before.
Yeah.
You've really got to come up with some boundaries.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, next thing that you can do, and I love this one. I love when I see clients do this, and then they become a homeowner. They didn't think they could do it, but they did this, and they could be. And that is reset your expectations. Nobody wants to hear that, but like I have these buyers we were talking to not too long ago. They're in a position where they really, really need to buy a house. Rent is so expensive, and I know everyone's saying home prices is expensive too, but rent is, a lot of people don't want to rent, and I understand why, because they don't want to be paying for that, someone else's mortgage basically. And these clients, they're needing to change their expectations because they are on a very small budget for what they're looking for. And even in our area, let's just say $400,000, that doesn't get you very far in Salem, Oregon right now at this point in time. If you're wanting, a big yard, like you might have to adjust those expectations. I know for us, one of the times when we were house hunting, we were looking at a lot of the houses that we were looking at were new construction and big square footage. I love the square footage. However, in almost all of those circumstances, they didn't have a yard. If we wanted to find a house that was the square footage that we wanted and also in a good location, good neighborhood with a yard, it was going to have to be a older home, which is what we ended up buying. A bigger yard. Well, it's still not a huge yard, but for Salem, for the area, for being in the area we're in, it is a bigger yard, which is crazy. But it has more square footage, and it was older, so we did the remodeling before we moved in. But basically, what I'm trying to say is, we for our budget at the time, we weren't able to buy the house that had the completely, updated, newer inside, plus the square footage, plus the yard, plus the good neighborhood. Like, you have to give somewhere. So whether that's change your expectations to being open to an older house, if you won't budge on the yard, or change the yard, like, you're going to have to change those expectations. I think that's a huge thing. That's
a terrific
point.
A
lot of buyers are going to need to be doing right now, because
I know I did.
At the end of the day, like, if you want to buy a house, homeownership is so worth it, and you don't need to think of it as your forever house. Like, I don't think I'll ever have a forever house. I could move into a great whatever. Like, I love where I live.
We're looking into Florida properties, and we're looking at 1,300, 1,400 square foot homes. That's like our first house for us. And they're old style builds. Could we live there? Yes. And that's a sacrifice, though. That is a realistic sacrifice that Mariah and I may make for our next investment property, not being here in state. There's always an expectation in the clarity. I love how you brought that up, though, because it's a real come to Jesus moment, as my lender would say. We got to come to Jesus, guys, because if this deal is going to happen, this is what needs to take place. And you're either hot or you're cold. I got a cold lead, I got a warm lead, or I got a hot lead. For me on the real estate side. And, there's nothing wrong with showing homes, but we also have to make sure you're pre-approved to show these homes. And then these homes are realistic that you're wanting to purchase. And so, those expectations generally do change once we end up showing. The showing process happens. Because you'll be sending me homes. We go view it. Maybe there's 5 homes in a day, 5 homes in the week. And then we're like, Spence, none of these are really working out for me. I thought the area was different, or this price range only brings me this much. And I'm really looking for this in a home characteristic, maybe newer, for instance. So the budget maybe goes up. We've seen that so many times. A client, they tell us, I'm only pre-approved for $350. We get out there, $350's out there. And then, what do you know? They end up settling for a home around $425,000, and we're like, "Are you sure you're pre-approved for this?" We talked to the lender. Yeah, they're good to go. You know, the expectations always change, whether it's in a negative light or a heavier light. It's really up to the client and where they're at and what they're seeing based off the areas they're wanting to live in. That's the biggie. I would say location is going to be key right now in today's real estate market, but also in 2-3 years down the road as an investment piece, because I can guarantee you the location does matter. That's always a key characteristic in real estate. If you're wanting a return on investment, a good return on investment, your location is going to be key, but that ultimately will affect your price. So realize what your expectations are from the beginning. Don't feel bad if they do end up changing a little bit, though.
Yeah, and another sacrifice that I've seen clients make many times that I think is such a smart thing to do is after looking at houses for a certain while as a first time buyer, realizing, like you said, I don't think I can buy anything. The houses that I'm seeing, like we get there in person and they're so much worse than the pictures. Like what I can get for my budget is just not it. And so these buyers then decide to go buy a condo or a townhouse, which maybe they didn't initially want, but they could actually buy something that's move-in ready and nice versus a house, house that's the same way it wouldn't work out. So just move your expectations. Okay. Fourthly, last but not least, look at homes further out. Consider commuting for a season because homeownership is worth it. So
Didn't I say that? Didn't I even mention that when
further
I last
out?
spoke? Yeah, just
Maybe.
make sure the location is,
yes,
it worked for you.
But what I mean by this is, say you're somebody who you work in Salem, you have always lived in Salem, you want to live in Salem. Mm-hmm. Well, maybe for you, that could mean moving out to like Lyons. How far is that? 30 minutes?
It's a 25
minutes, kind of out
Straight
there.
shot.
Yes, you're a little more rural. It's a further drive to go do fun things. You're out in the country. Maybe some people like that, but maybe you don't want that. But it's a sacrifice to be able to buy a home and do homeownership, and you don't have to do it forever. So, that's another thing is maybe if the town you're looking in is just too expensive, like how far out can you go? If you want to go an hour out into the country, you can find something even cheaper. So like how far are you willing to go?
Yeah.
All right, that's it for today. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. We come on here every week and talk about real estate. So be sure to come back next week. We'll see you then.